This HAN Network video is brought to you by Coastal Orthopedics.
So excited to have Dr. Aaron Krasner of Silver Hill Hospital, who is the chief of the Adolescent Transitional Living Program at Silver Hill. That's here in New Canaan. Dr. Krasner, welcome.
So nice to be here. It's a beautiful day. Thanks for having me.
I know, it's a gorgeous day, and we've spoken to you before on a number of topics, and today we're talking about National Bullying Prevention Awareness Month, which is this month, right?
It is, and it's an important topic, a timely topic, and I'm really grateful that you and some other news outlets have taken an interest in the topic, and I'm hopeful that we can have a nice conversation today about it.
Yes, definitely. Now, Dr. Krasner, has this issue gotten worse? Is it social media? What is it? We hear so much about bullying now, more so than ever.
Yeah, well, I attribute that probably to increasing awareness. I think bullying is old. If you think about it from a mammalian or an ethological perspective, which means the study of animals, bullying is part of how humans interact in social circumstances, and non-human primates interact in social circles forever. And it has played a role historically, and for that reason, I don't think it's going away. So I sort of want to recast this, not necessarily as Bullying Prevention Month, but maybe Bullying Awareness and Bullying Management Month.
Talk a little bit about bullying management. What does that mean?
So if bullying is here to stay, and we should define bullying as we go on, then really the question is, what are we to do as a society that ostensibly is different from our primate cousins, at least hopefully and in theory? Then what are we to do to help our kids, our teens, our young adults, and even adults who are part of the bullying phenom or paradigm? So let me start by explaining how I understand bullying. I understand bullying to be a situation where someone has power and authority, and there's a discrepancy in power and authority, and the person in authority deliberately, consciously exploits their powerful role to make the other person feel weak. So that can take many, many, many different forms. It can be exclusion, it can be physical intimidation and harm, and it can even be nonverbal communication. And all of this happens typically when someone feels disempowered, or someone is different in one way or another, and another person feels empowered and feels that they are in control and able to wield power in such a way that they are able to harm the other person for their own benefit. Not all bullies are aware that they're bullying. The typical Mean Girls kind of phenomenon where you fall into like, I'm a popular kid and we're popular and this is just part of being popular. And then all of a sudden behaviors are coming out of this person that are not necessarily indicative of who they are in their essence, but more or less reflective of where they are in terms of trying to be popular. And by that same token, not everyone who's a victim is always to be a victim of bullying. And hopefully this conversation will help parents, kids, teens, and adults think a little bit about what happens when they feel bullied and when they find themselves enacting bullying behaviors.
And now, a lot of times you hear, especially with young kids, because, bullying can start relatively young, and parents, maybe where does the line get drawn? When is it serious bullying? When is it kids being kids, which you hear a lot of?
I love that question because that is the question. Bullying is when someone feels exploited. When it's not a mean comment, because mean comments are, if bullying is mean comments, then we're all in trouble. It's when someone is systematically exploited, and the person who feels systematically exploited begins to develop cardinal signs and symptoms of a victim bully dynamic, which is to feel withdrawn or to not want to go to school or to develop signs and symptoms consistent with depression or anxiety and withdrawal. And these are the cardinal symptoms for someone who's bullied. And the risk factors for being bullied really are anything that's different from the norm. And the norm varies from place to place, socioeconomic, demographic to cultural context. So what is the norm in one place may not be the norm in another place. So you can go from being kind of king of the hill to the bottom of the totem pole just by dint of moving, for example. And that is why so many kids struggle with moving, because they lose their understanding of the cultural norms and expectations, and they will find themselves in a risk factor for being bullied, and often they will be bullied. So the first thing to say to kids and parents who feel systematically exploited is they have to recognize that it's happening. They have to say, this is not garden variety teasing. This is not uncomfortable stuff that needs to be worked through. This is not being quote unquote overly sensitive, which is not something I like to talk about too much anyway, because I don't really know what that means. But it is when you know or feel in your heart that you're being attacked. And when that happens, that level of aggression is so damaging. And it's damaging not just for the person who's being bullied, but it's actually horrible for the bully. And the statistics reflect that most bullies have themselves been bullied. And really, that is the highest risk kind of cohort within the bullying dynamic for psychopathology. The kids who have both been bullied and are now bullies are the ones who go on to develop really serious problems that often need help.
And as I understand, you create some toolkits for parents, right, to kind of help them with this. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the toolkits are geared to help people deal with this. Again, recasting Bullying Prevention Month into Bullying Management Month. What are we actually going to do? So I've already sort of let the cat out of the bag on the victim side. Let's peel out for a second and look at what happens when there's a bullying event. Mm-hmm. When there's a bullying event, someone is exploiting another person. And in that exploitative moment, there's someone who's watching. So we have to also remember that bullying is a societal and environmental issue that is going to impact not just the bully and the victim, but also the people that are watching. So let's bring them in to this conversation, because I don't know if you've ever seen someone be bullied or yourself been bullied, but watching someone be bullied is in some ways as uncomfortable as being bullied. Witnessing that aggression, not knowing necessarily what to do with it, is terrifying. So the toolkit is about what to do if you as a parent or a kid feel like you're being bullied. Mm-hmm. What to do if you or a parent or the parent is concerned that you are the bully, mm-hmm. and what to do if you're the bystander. So we're talking all three here. Right. All right, so let's do victim first. The victims, as I've laid out for you, there are risk factors that are pretty consistent. You're in the minority, and that may be in the sexual preference minority, that may be in the racial minority, that may be in the socioeconomic demographic minority, that may be in the I don't play sports minority, whatever it is. You're in the minority of something, you're different. That's the risk factor. The symptoms and cardinal signs of being bullied are, as I've already outlined, but I'm going to repeat them because I think it bears mentioning. Kids don't want to go to school. Kids want to avoid the bully. Kids want to avoid the bus. Mm-hmm. Kids want to avoid wherever they fear that they may be exploited. Parents need to be tuned in. They need to look at their kids. They need to talk to their kids. All parents love their kids. even parents who are abusive love their kids. And I'm encouraging all parents to find a way to connect with their kids, especially if they think that their kids may have one or more risk factors for being bullied, and especially in combination if they see risk factors and cardinal signs, they gotta be clued in. And when they're clued in, they're talking to their kids and they're strategizing with their kids. All right, what's going on? Tell me about lunch. Tell me about, who's in the popular crowd. Like what's, blah, blah, blah. Jimmy and Sarah and however the power, every playground's got politics. You know what I'm saying? So who's doing what, where, how are you fitting in? How's it working? Strategize and empower. Empower the kid to say no. Empower the kid to walk away. Empower the kid for selective ignoring. Now listen, those are first line defenses. They are not always going to work. If your kid doesn't think that you have his or her back, then that sends an implicit sign that you are somehow in cahoots with the bully. And that the solution for exploitation may be really hard to come by. So you have to also feel, as a parent, empowered to go to the school. Schools are invariable in terms of how they deal with bullying. Almost all schools don't want it. Few schools have the infrastructure to manage it. But if you bring it to their attention, they have a better shot at managing it than if you don't. So you're going to bring it to their attention. That's the toolkit.
Right.
Now, on the bully side, you guys, your listeners, your viewers, bullies are everywhere. It's part of life. There's a fine line between being alpha and being a bully. And I don't want to sit here and pretend like the bullies can't be helped. Because a lot of bullies, especially the ones who react, I divide aggression into two. I say there's hot aggression and cold aggression. Hot aggression is when someone does or says something to you and you have an impulsive rage kind of response and you lash out. That's hot aggression. You guys, we're good at treating that. We're money at treating that. Cold aggression, where it's calculated, premeditated, that's a lot harder to treat. Hot aggression, bullies who have hot aggression have anger management problems. Anger management problems are rampant throughout society. We can help those guys and gals, no problem. But it does merit perhaps some attention. And as a parent, I don't want you to feel guilty and shameful if your kids manifests some bullying traits and is sometimes demonstrates hot or cold aggression. I don't want you to feel ashamed or humiliated. This is part of life. But we do have to be strong as parents and say, hey man, or hey kiddo, we got to work with you on this because this is unacceptable. And there's a big inclination when you're a parent to say, not my kid couldn't and my kid couldn't, but we got to be open to the fact that it's possible. And so I say, let's help the bullies. Let's not just think about the victims. Of course, we want to think about the victims, but it takes two to tango. And let's help the bullies. Let's give them the support that they need. Let's give them the understanding that they need. Let's try to understand why they might feel the need to be a bully. And let's try to help them. And the third group are the bystanders. Now look, some people are wired up to be bystanders. They're going to see some injustice and they're going to stand up and they're going to say no. You as parents or kids who are wired up to be bystanders, you guys have to be aware that there's some risks to being an upstander, which is going from bystander to advocating. And you may be next on the bully list if you go from bystander to upstander. And you just need to know the risks that are a part of that. And all this is on the Silver Hill website. We have a nice little article, and I hope some of your listeners and viewers will take a look at it, especially if they want to remember some of the things I've said. It's laid out there really nicely.
And it's silverhillhospital.org, is it?
That's right.
Okay.
All one word, silverhillhospital.org.
Great. And finally, just what is like one of the most important things parents can do, especially in this age of cyberbullying? What are the things they should look for or keep an eye on, most importantly?
Oh, you had to raise cyberbullying. Had to go there. Cyberbullying makes bullying ubiquitous. It makes it harder to manage because it's just coming and coming and coming. It's anonymous. It's hard to keep track of. It's hard to prosecute. It's hard to understand whose domain is it? Is it the school domain? Is it the authorities' domain? But it's unacceptable, and it's so damaging. And a lot of the kids that I work with have been told horrible, horrible things on social media. As parents, you want to be dialed into that, just like you're dialed into what's going on the playground. What's so-and-so posting? Do you feel like you have to get that many likes? How many likes do you really need for it to be good? There's like data to support popularity now. Like before it used to just be popularity. Now we got data. So what does that mean? Open a dialogue, talk to the kids. How does it feel if X and such is posted and you're omitted? And that's one small instance. But then what if someone's saying deliberate, harsh, awful things to you? That is unacceptable. Block that person. As a victim, get them out. Don't stand for it. Talk to your parents. Get the help you need to advocate for yourself. Because the more it happens, the worse it gets. And I think we need to be relatively aggressive when it comes to cyberbullying because it is brutal and it doesn't go away because once it's on there, it's on there. And we want to educate everyone to use the virtual space with a lot of respect and to think carefully about what we post and what we don't post.
Well, Dr. Krasner, I think you're making all good points. And I think what I'm hearing is empowering our children, helping to build confidence in them, and not being ashamed, like you said, if your child is doing the bullying and just trying to work it out and talk to them and maybe get help at Silver Hill Hospital, right?
Hey, listen, we're here to help, especially the Fairfield community. We're a fantastic hospital. I'm available as a triage point. It's a relatively small community. And if people want to email me directly, they can, krasner@silverhillhospital.org. If you want to, we have all kinds of resources on our internet site, and we want to be helpful. We want to be a resource to Fairfield County.
All right, Dr. Krasner, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back.